Number 18, Utah at number 5, Washington, biggest game west of the Mississippi for me, right? I think this game's interesting because, well, the last 3 years, this has been a one-score game, right? That's fascinating. And Washington has won 5 of the last 6. Like, that's kind of, it's not the way I expected this to go. I expected Utah to kind of be putting the screws to Washington in this one. And yet, no, that's not the way that it's been, right? Each of the last 3 times that they've done this, basically they haven't got to 9.5. So if you're betting type, maybe you're going to take Utah to cover in this game because it's going to be tight, and it should be. This number 1 pass offense versus the number 1 pass defense. Utah seeking its first win against a 9-0 opponent since 1960, and I think they can do it. Like, if Cam Rising was quarterback of this football team, I think we would feel differently about it. But right now, it feels like, can you stop Michael Penix Jr., Dylan Johnson, and Rome Odunze from doing what they have done? I think Utah's got it, but I thought they had it against Oregon, and Oregon handed them their head. They bounced back to put up 55 and allowed 3 against Arizona State. Maybe this comes down to Bryson Barnes at quarterback and just what he does or doesn't do, meaning throw the football to the other team or throw touchdowns. But I think if you keep the lid on your end zone and you're Utah, you really have a great opportunity here to spoil Washington's undefeated season and to really put them up against the wall, having to probably prove it twice and beating Oregon twice to get into the college football playoff. I think Utah also excels in this role, spoiling it for Pac-12 teams that want to make the college football playoff and spoiling it for themselves in 2018, particularly when they had Snoop Huntley at quarterback and took a second loss to get Oklahoma in there. But you know what I'm saying here. I think Utah is exactly what you expect them to be, a 10-win team. They're going to win games at the line of scrimmage. They're going to run the ball really well. Washington is much closer to USC than I think any other team. It's not just that they have a generational quarterback in Michael Penix Jr., who's really great throwing the ball all over the yard. It's that the UW defense has been bad here, especially lately. 124th in pass defense, 103rd in yards allowed per game, and giving up 37.5 points. Like, the last time that Utah played a team that kind of resembled the one that Washington is, they beat them at Coliseum. Now they got to go into Seattle and get this. I'm going to pick Washington to win this because the game is in Seattle, and that is where Washington got its historic win against Oregon. But I submit to you, Oregon didn't lose that football game. Dan Lanning did. I understand that he's sticking to his guns and his principles there, but, you're going to do that. That means people know what you're going to be about. So they expect you to go out there and perhaps lose them the football game or say to the players, go win it. I tend to think that players win and coaches lose, right? Just as a matter of course. But if you are Washington, you can't afford to get into another shootout. Like, if you're in a shootout, you're in a bad spot. I also think that Utah is not going to give you the ball back. Like, that really chaps me. I would never want to give Michael Penix Jr. the ball back down less than a TD, right? You always want to grind out the clock, and I think that's what Andy Ludwig, Kyle Whittingham are going to do, and they're going to say, hey, Morgan Scalley, go pitch us another gem, because they're perfectly capable of doing just that. So while I expect that to be about who basically runs the Pac-12, the defending Pac-12 champ, Utah, or the budding Pac-12 champ, Washington, if you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.